On this episode of the Whiskey Tornado, we take a look at not only what people are claiming is the best batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof ever, but many are saying is Whiskey of the Year. It's time to review Elijah Craig batch C923. This is the third and final batch released in 2023 for Elijah Craig's Barrel Proof Bourbon, which features its flagship bourbon recipe, uncut and unfiltered. Like the last edition, the age statement will vary from batch to batch rather than having a consistent age. Batch C923 has an age statement of 13 years and 7 months. It is bottled at 133 proof, and it is available at an MSRP of $74.99. Welcome back to the Whiskey Tornado. I'm your host, Lance, and we are reviewing Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch C923. Like we stated in the intro, many are claiming that not only is this probably Whiskey of the Year running, but it is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof's best batch ever. That is a big statement for one of the most popular releases in bourbon. So today we're going to find out if other channels are correct or if Lance with the Whiskey Tornado has to be the voice of reason. And I got to tell you guys, when I see lots of people jump on a bourbon, my first inclination is to resist against it. And as a marketing major in college, one thing I know is the psychology of brands and marketing, and it's very hard to separate your bias when you're already so amped up about something. And Elijah Craig Barrel Proof was always listed as a 12-year age statement. And this year they took that off. A lot of people got very upset. So what does Heaven Hill do? They turn around and the last release of the year, they bump their age statement up to as high as it's ever been. And the youngest bourbon in this batch is 13 years and 7 months. And everybody loses their mind. Many channels have reviewed this and everyone that I've seen is going crazy over it. So let's get into it, guys. Let's review this. Let's see if it's as good as everyone says it is. As always with our new scoring system going forward, I'm going to nose it, taste it, tell you about the finish, and then I'm going to let you guys know whether it's a buy or pass based on where you are in your bourbon journey. And then we're also going to tell you if you should bunker some bottles, and at the very end, we are going to taste it against batch C920. The batches in 2020 were some of the best ever. All whiskey reviewers pretty much are unanimous on that. So I've still got some C920. And we're going to taste it against that and see how it stands up. So let's get into the nose on C923. Man, the nose so far, phenomenal, guys. So concentrated. My goodness, like concentrated brown sugar, cinnamon hot candies, caramel, leather. Got a lot of that rick house that I love on there. I like dusty rick house. And then one of the things I'm always looking for in Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs, you usually get the honey, the cinnamon candied pecans, the brown sugar. You always get that in Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. But the batches that really push me over the edge into exceptional are when I can get fruit notes on top of that. And on the nose on this, I'm getting very, very dark cherries. Man, this is an exceptional nose. As perfect as a nose could be. And at 133 proof, it's not like, singeing my nose hairs or anything like that. It is really, really nice. It makes you super excited to get into the palate. So let's do that, guys. Let's get into the palate. Cheers, everybody. Man, I'm just letting it finish. I have some initial positives and some initial negatives. The positives, let's start there. Condensed brown sugar. So much flavor. All of it's condensed. Brown sugar, cinnamon, sugared pecans, rick house. One of the things I'm not getting is that black cherry note that I got on the nose, which I wish was there. And one of the things we're going to do, since this is 133 proof, I've had the pleasure of going on many Elijah Craig Barrel Proof picks. And one of the things I've learned from the good people at Heaven Hill is to always add water to these. And a lot of times adding water opens up some fruit notes, and you get some things that you didn't taste before. So we're gonna add some water to this in a little bit and see how it affects it before we score it. So let's go in for another sip. That first sip, the negatives. Here's the negatives right away. And it's not surprising based on the age. If 13 years, 7 months is the age, I instantly got bitterness on the back of my palate on the finish, and I got a very drying sensation on the front of my tongue. Two things I'm not crazy about. One thing I like, I don't have to have a bourbon that's super complex if it does one thing really good. Like I always say, if it's just like buttered caramels, and I love that note, and it's there in spades, and I love that. But I don't want a bourbon to dry my palate out or give me a bitter note. And this did. It did that. So those are two knocks that I have. And I haven't, I've watched a couple reviews. Everybody's gone crazy about this, so I feel like I'm on an island. But I've not heard anyone say anything about bitterness or drying. So I don't know. There's a possibility that my bottle's a little different, but at this point, I don't know that I would say it's the best Elijah Craig barrel proof I've ever had. In fact, I know it's not. I've had some private barrels that are better than this. But all that being said, let's get into second sip. Yeah, it does some things really nicely. The concentrated brown sugar, cinnamon, sugared pecans, rickhouse funk is there. No fruit notes that I can pick up on the palate, but it does dry my palate out, and it is bitter. Man, it like really zaps the front, like just behind the front of my tongue, mid tongue, but in front of mid, if that makes sense. It is dry. It is dry. The wood tannins are a little too much for me, and I'm somebody who enjoys oak, and this is a little bit too wood tannin-y for me. I wish that wasn't there. I wish it was a little sweeter and rounder, and I would be 100% in on this release. But now, again, that's not to say this is bad. This is fantastic. I'll tell you guys right now, I would bunker this, okay? But I think the age statement on here is messing with some people's ability to effectively critique this, all right? All right, here we go. One more sip here. Yeah, it's really concentrated. I think that's what most people are really picking up on, how concentrated that flavor is. Again, it's very good, but where I knock it from a bourbon reviewer's perspective is their bitterness and drying on the palate. I'm not a fan of that. The nose is perfect. It's a perfect nose. It has everything you'd want. It has dense smells, fruit, spice, everything you would want. Rickhouse funk, it's age, all that. It has it on the nose. Palate though, really good, complex, just has that bitterness and a little too many oak tannins for my particular palate. And again, I'd say the same thing on the finish. So let's add some water. Let's do that real quick before I give you guys my opinion. Let me swirl this around, because I used to think I didn't need to do that with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof until I went on several barrel picks. So, all right, cheers, everybody. So the bitterness when I add water maybe comes down a hair, but what it turns into is more like a buttery caramel, which is still great. I like it better without water, but I don't think that it opened it up in any way. Now, I didn't let it sit here, but I don't know that it opened it up anyway, and that like fruit notes are starting to come forward. Like I've done some Elijah Craig Barrel Proof picks where we add water, and all of a sudden there's a raspberry note that wasn't there, and I love that. I'm not getting that with this particular batch, but it is what it is. Still good. Just has some things that I'm not crazy about. So before we taste this against one of my favorite batches, C920, let's tell you guys whether I think it's a buy, pass, or bunker, depending on where you are in your bourbon journey. Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs are always easy, guys. They're a buy in every category. if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, or if you're at a bourbon aficionado. Now, there is an asterisk on the beginner category. If you're a beginner and you buy an Elijah Craig barrel proof and you just pour it without adding any water, you're gonna think that I'm crazy. You're gonna think it's too hot, it strangles you too much, and you're not gonna enjoy it. But the reason I say it's a buy if you're a beginner is because who knows how long these are gonna be around, right? Like, they've already taken the 12-year age statement off of it. So I would get it and I would add water and proof it down to where your palate likes it. It's really good with water. It's good on ice. And if you don't decide to open it, I would stash it away until you start enjoying bourbons in that 110 area. And then go ahead and crack it open, and you're gonna find that you like it a lot better. But it takes some acclimation to get up to these big boys that kick you in the nuts and toss you around the room a little bit. Now, if you're an intermediate or a bourbon aficionado, you guys already know 12-year age-stated bottle at uncut, unfiltered, $75 is a buy all day long, and it's a bunker all day long. Definitely buy extras of these because of the age statement, because of the hype around it. And it's a good bourbon. It just, for my particular palate, has some things that I'm not crazy about. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm really surprised that a lot of reviewers aren't picking up on the bitterness and the drying of the palate. I don't know if I've got a strange bottle or if I'm just completely out on an island, but I'm not just gonna regurgitate everything everybody's saying. I like to give you guys my honest opinion, and that's just something that I'm not crazy about, and it has that bitterness to it. So let's taste C920 against it and see how it fares. So here we go. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, that's really good, man. That's like a Snickers bar. But it is drying my palate out too. So who knows, man? Maybe I have been drinking more bourbons in that 107 to 115 range. I haven't been up to the 130s very much. I don't go to those very often anymore. A lot of times I think those barrel proof versions can hide faults in whiskey until you add water. I don't think that does this. It's just not as rounded and nice as I like it to be. It plays a little dirty. It does. It makes you get a little down and dirty. It's got that funk and dryingness to it. Let me taste it against the C920. The flavors are better than the C920. For the record, A120 is my favorite batch ever. So on a live stream next week, we are gonna do Elijah Craig drink through. We're gonna do them blind, and we will find out whether this is the best Elijah Craig barrel proof ever. Right now, I do think this beats C920, honestly, but they both have a little bitterness to me, so it could be what I've eaten today. Who knows? It's a good batch. It just has some things I'm not crazy about, and I'm not ready to say it's bourbon of the year or the best Elijah Craig barrel proof ever. But I do think you should buy it, and I do think you should bunker it. All right, guys, if you like this review, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. If you want to help support the channel, you can join our Patreon for as little as $2 a month. It helps with the cameras, the lighting, the bourbon, all that kind of stuff. The link is in the description below. If you're somebody that likes barrel picks, I don't make money on any of my barrel picks. We do all our barrel picks through our charity organization, Barrels for Hope. We do 6 picks a year. You can join for as little as $5 a month on that. Again, the link is in the description below. We thank you guys so much for all the love and support, and we'll see you guys on the next review. Cheers, everybody.